Whenever your brain is turned off and there's this emptiness, there's space to receive an idea.
We have the one and only Shiva, one of my really good friends. I've known her for years. We used to DJ back in college, and it was fun times when I was a young lad. And now she is a successful music producer and artist that has traveled the world, played at festivals, has multiple singles online, even has this new event called Return to Sound that mixes trap music and tribal music with meditation in a full experience. But I want to let her explain that, though.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
That was pretty accurate.
Oh, okay, I was just saying. Okay,
You missed the part about how you taught me how to DJ.
That's right. I forgot about, mentioning that because I don't want that to be also your identity.
Well, it's a big part of the journey.
It is a big part of the journey.
You were a big catalyst in my growth and inspiring me to learn how to DJ. And me just learning how to trust myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you gave me the tools and gave me like my first steps and foundation.
Yeah, I remember when you first came up to me and asked to DJ, I was asking myself, is she really going to pursue this? Because a lot of people ask me to DJ and they really don't. They think it's cool for the moment when they see me on stage, but then when they actually come by for a lesson, they don't even buy turntables or anything afterwards. But
I was serious.
You were serious.
I was serious.
I remember you got that. What was that program?
Torque.
TORQ, if you guys didn't know. This was before. This is during
Pre-Serato.
Pre-Serato.
Yeah.
It was kind of like baby Serato.
Well, you taught me on vinyl.
Yeah.
And then you taught me on digital. You taught me on Torque.
I think it was Torque or Serato.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was definitely passionate about music before I reached out to you. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just seeing you DJ on stage, which that definitely inspired me, because seeing you rock a crowd was like, I'll never forget it.
Yes.
That's one of my first memories of, you were one of the first DJs I saw rocking a party, because I was really sheltered growing up.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Orlando, and then I moved to LA to go to college, and I had never really been out to a party where there was a DJ rocking a crowd. And I was 18 years old with my first boyfriend at a frat party, and then here's this dude crushing it with like all these girls around him, and he's just like not even focused on the girls. He's just so into his music and mixing and just killing it. And I just remember it was like tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And I saw you and I was like, I want to do that. And I was like, and I can do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, like music was always my passion. I always knew it was music. It was always a calling, and I feel like it was the thing that I always knew was important to me as a kid. And I think that it's always like that. Like when you think about your passion, it usually kind of stems back to when you were a child.
Yeah.
And for me, it was always music. And so when I hit you up to learn how to DJ, I was already 21. I had just gotten into the music program at Cal State Northridge. I was playing the piano. I was experimenting with making beats already and playing in GarageBand. And so when I hit you up to DJ, I knew that was a serious thing for me. But you really helped me out and just were such a great teacher. And since then, you've taught a lot of people, that we're friends with, because I've made you.
Yeah.
Because you're so good at it. So, yeah.
No, thank you. It's cool to hear from you that, you were always into music, and you knew that. It's almost like you were born an artist. But was it always that way? Or was there a point in your life when you realized, I love music and this is my future?
I was always intrinsically drawn to it. I was just drawn to sound. My dad played a lot of music in the house.
Mm-hmm.
We are Iranian, so my dad was always playing Iranian music. He played the keyboard. He was always playing Iranian pop music, Iranian classical music, and also just pop music. We had a lot of, Michael Jackson, Cyndi Lauper, VHS tapes playing in the house all the time. And I just grew up with music around me and my dad really enjoying it. And then him also forcing me to play the piano when I was a kid, which I didn't like, but just fell in love with. And I was so glad that he made me do that because I did fall in love with it. And I got into these artists like Tori Amos and Fiona Apple and these artists that played the piano and sang.
Yeah.
And I would play their music and I was really passionate about them. So I feel like I always knew, but in the beginning it was kind of like a nudge from my dad to learn an instrument. But then as I started to learn it, it was like you couldn't really pull me away from it. And even though it wasn't this passion necessarily about the piano per se, it was very much, I was drawn to electronic music and I knew that I wanted to just play with sound. Like I didn't know what exactly that looked like. I didn't know what a producer was. And then that's how, the DJing evolved. I did start playing around as a producer, and then the DJing was the next evolution of that, where I knew, okay, I can take one song and mash it up with another song, and now I've got this new creation. So it was kind of like music production in a way, where I could create something new by blending. So to answer your question, I feel like I always knew, but in the very early stages, it was more so my dad kind of guiding me.
That's fascinating because a lot of people, when they know that they're an artist or a creative at a young age and they get to that point in college, they have a fork in the road, right? They got to figure out if they want to pursue their passion as a major or if they go down what their parents or society tells them to pursue in order to get a job or become successful in something that they don't even want to be successful in. And so it's cool that you actually went towards music and then now you're still pursuing it.
Yeah.
So it's been that strong of a passion that you always knew was there.
Yeah, and at the college, there definitely was a fork in the road where I was in my fourth year. I hadn't picked a major yet. I was always passionate about film and photography.
Okay.
So in my fourth year, I started majoring in film. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I started majoring in film. I know, I can't believe I haven't told you that out of all people.
Okay.
And I just knew, it was like this feeling. I just knew that I'm like, this isn't it. And I knew it was music, but at Cal State Northridge, you had to audition to get in the music program. Even if you just wanted to study music industry studies, it was half theory and half business.
Yeah.
So you had to audition on your instrument or you had to sing. And I was just so intimidated by that. I was like, nah, like that, I can't do that. And I wasn't really actively playing the piano when I was in college. So like 4 years had gone by. I really hadn't been playing. But I was a very good student. I was making A's and B's. I think I was pretty much honor roll. And I just knew, like, I had this moment where I realized if I can ace all these classes that I don't even care about, why can't I pass this audition?
That's right.
Like, what if I just focused and studied as hard as I do for all these other classes on my music?
Yeah.
And so it was the summer of my 21st birthday. I went back home to Orlando. I got a piano teacher. The summer of my 21st birthday was spent, like, heavily practicing on keys with a teacher, getting ready to play repertoire and do a sight reading test when I went back to LA. And I came back to LA and I passed the test with flying colors. And I remember crying when I got accepted. because I didn't never believe that I could do it. And also the teacher tricked me because I asked her for a private class lesson before the audition.
Mm-hmm.
And little did I know that private lesson was the audition.
Oh.
So she had me perform, and then she was like, you passed.
There you go.
I was like, what? And I started crying, and that's when I hit you up.
Yeah. You got the confidence in yourself, and you knew from that
I was like,
positive reinforcement that you can do it. You can be a full-time creative, basically.
Yeah, and that's when it all began.
And then for you, when you graduated, right? And then you have this piano background, you're DJing, and I know that you always want to get into electronic music. So when did you start figuring out production?
Yeah. Well, that was a really difficult time for me, actually, because when I graduated, I had this vision of how everything was going to go down. I was like, I'm going to keep playing the piano, I'm going to keep DJing, and I'm going to be making music. But I was so accustomed to school and people telling me what to do that when I got out of school, I no longer had anyone telling me what to do. So I lost track for a little bit. And I ended up actually getting really sick. I came down with 2 autoimmune diseases in the same month.
Dang.
I got diagnosed with pancreatitis and ulcerative colitis in the same month. I was hospitalized. I almost died. And I went through this really about 2-year phase where I was just put out, and I was DJing at the time. I just begun my DJ career, but the production hadn't really taken off yet. And after a couple years of being sick, I started to awaken, really, and had this sort of spiritual awakening, and started meditating, started doing Kundalini yoga, started waking up to how connected everything in my life was, and started to take responsibility for what was going on in my body, and recognizing that maybe this is connected to how I feel, and taking a look at how I feel, and realizing that one of the most poignant, the most, I would say that when I graduated, there was a really strong desire to create, but a very strong resistance around creating, where I had this sort of perfectionist mentality.
Yeah.
And I was afraid to just be a beginner and to suck. And I didn't have a teacher giving me assignments, and it was very difficult for me to figure it out on my own. And I do believe because of that pain that I experienced, internal pain, that I made myself sick, literally.
Got it.
And so because of becoming sick, I really was forced in the space of waking up. And through that experience, I had this awakening and realization that I had to create. I had to create by any means possible.
Wow.
And that this was very much connected to my health. And one of the ways that I started doing that was making meditation music. And
incredible.
I told myself that I was like, you know what, meditation music is easy to make. You just play a chord for 10 minutes and put some twinkles on top of it, and you're done. And so that was sort of a gateway for me to get into making my beats, my electronic music. Little did I know I was going to go through this process of soothing myself and healing myself through making meditation music.
Wow.
And I started getting really into it and experimenting with it and putting binaural brain waves on top of the music, and then recording my own mantras that I felt like I needed to hear on top of the music.
Nice.
And then I would play it for myself at night while I slept. And I didn't know at the time that this was a form of self-hypnosis. And I actually started to heal my body through this experience. And it was a really just profound time in my life. And then that's when I started to make more electronic beat music.
Yeah.
It was like the floodgates opened from there. But that's also how I started making meditation music.
Yeah.
And that's what Return to Sound is it's my meditation music, it's my ambient music, and it's all just been really connected to my life journey.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because music took you out of your illness, and it's what you use right now to heal yourself. Is the idea of creating music, listening to music, and you're sharing that with people because you've been through that whole process of being sick and then finding a way through music to heal yourself. And so that's why what you're doing with Return to Sound is so genius and also admirable because you're being so generous with your creativity to heal people. And I think it's so important for people to know that being creative has helped you kind of come out of an illness. And a lot of people, they keep this creative energy inside, and in turn it gives them stress and depression and negative feelings about themselves, and it actually turns into a sickness.
Yeah.
And I think people do live through that.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that you went through that story and creativity helped you.
Yeah.
And so what is kind of your like the response? Because I know you just did Return to Sound. You've done a few.
Yeah, I've done a few.
I've been to one.
Yeah.
If you guys have not been to one, you need to go to one. It really is a meditation / performance and an experience where you listen to Shiva play music. She gives you a journal and you go through a whole process of self-healing and you come out of it. Like you go into it listening to some super dope beats. Like if you're a musician or producer and you listen and you go, you're gonna enjoy just the sonics and everything about it. It just sounds great. And then you close your eyes and you listen to Shiva's voice and she'll take you on a journey. And then you're going to come out of it with a bunch of words inside of your journal and a new realization that it's time to change your life.
Yeah, more clarity.
Yeah. So have you had any awesome stories, or what's the response been with like Return to Sound?
I've only done 3 so far.
Yeah.
And I have one coming up at the Ace Hotel
Mm-hmm.
on the summer solstice, June 22nd.
Nice.
And the response has been beautiful, and it's been really easy, and it's been, I think with everything that I've done as a DJ for the past 13 years, it's always been about me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, come check me out. Come check me out. And this is not that. Like, this is like, come check you out.
Yes.
Like, go within your own world and experience yourself.
That's right.
And so because of that, it's been really effortless to promote it, to get people there, to get people excited about it, because it's really not about me.
Yeah.
I'm not the star of the show with this, and it's the healing that's the star of the show. And that's really the point of all of it. And it's actually a relief.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you feel like, how do you come up with your unique style or your creativity, or how do you become, different and unique from all the other artists out there? Where does it come from?
I don't necessarily think I come up with it. I think for me, the most unique sounds come from me listening.
Yes.
And listening to what I hear, listening to what I'm receiving. I do believe that inspiration is received from higher places.
Yeah.
Whether you want to call that God or the universe or source.
Yeah.
It is received. And part of my job as an artist, part of every artist's job, I do believe, is creating that atmosphere where you can listen, the atmosphere where you can receive.
Yeah.
And that is what meditation does. I get my best ideas when I'm meditating. Or even meditation doesn't have to be what we think of meditation to be. It's really, if you're hiking, if you're working out, for some people it's running. You know, for some, and sometimes it's washing the dishes or driving.
Yeah.
Whenever your brain is turned off and there's this emptiness, there's space to receive an idea. And I think that's the uniqueness.
Yes.
That's what's coming to you, and you can't make that stuff up. Like you just have to run with it. And I think that's the job of the artist, is to be able to catch that and run with it before it goes away, because it will go away if you don't do something with it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way when it comes to doing certain activities that don't require much brain power, because we're so stuck on social media or watching TV or listening to other music or doing things that require our brains to function at a high level, not even a high level, but just to be busy. And when we do find time to be self-aware and present and empty our mind, like you said, it's amazing what type of ideas come into your mind, like even in the shower.
The shower's a big one.
Yeah, the shower's a big one. All you're focused on is getting clean.
And also, too, because the shower is one of the few places you can't have electronics.
Yeah, that's right. It's so funny. I'll be hilarious if someone does come up with that there is a waterproof phone and an iPad, a waterproof iPad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure people have done that. If you have that out there, you need to take that out of your bathroom, right? Take it out of your shower, have that alone time, and get inspired.
Totally.
And for you, like because we've talked about this before, with the idea of being a full-time artist, and how do you find time to always create when you are, becoming more successful? Because you are being more successful now. You have a management team. You have to deal with producing your events. So how do you stay in that creative space?
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge, and I'm still finding that balance of what that looks like. And I think part of that is developing the right team, the right people that you can trust, and also just remembering that there's only people involved to help you because they believe in you. So it's my duty to maintain that trust and belief by prioritizing my art.
Yeah.
And even if that means I can't make a meeting or I can't make a call at a certain time because my art, I have a meeting with myself. And I think that anyone that works for you can only respect that, because that's the only reason why they are there to help you, is because you are good at what you do. And I think for me, I've definitely struggled with forgetting that that's why people are showing up.
That's right.
And then taking on too many tasks and trying to do it all and losing my mind and not being creative and, getting sick again and really, like, I'm lucky, like, I'm sensitive and my body talks to me. And I think that anyone out there that is super sensitive or has health issues, that is a superpower. That is your body talking to you. That's your body screaming at you. Listen to it. And for me, that has been my journey, is accepting that that's how I get signs and signals, is through my body.
Yeah.
And also recognizing that I'm lucky that happens, because there's a lot of people that don't get signs and might go on for a very long time emotionally without getting a signal. And so, my body talks to me. I can feel it emotionally when I'm overextending myself, and I just have to reel it back in and say, you know what? I got to prioritize my art.
Yeah.
And the emails come second, and the calls and the meetings and the meetups come second, and that's the only reason any of this stuff is happening.
That's right. I mean, for us as artists and creatives, our work is our art. And we sometimes forget the joy behind creating that art, and losing that joy makes the whole process of creativity sometimes arduous and stressful, and you forget how much time you spent beforehand to hone in your craft and all that fun. And when you get into the business side of things, it does become a chore. I know from as a creator as well, where you just want to keep putting out great stuff. That when you start getting paid for things from people, clients or shows, and people are asking you to give them and deliver something, it becomes a job.
Yeah.
And then there's also the idea of having to schedule your own releases, your own self-pressure.
Yeah.
And that self-pressure of having to compare yourself to even more successful artists. And the idea of comparanoia.
Mm-hmm. I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, comparanoia. I heard
Damn.
that on a podcast.
That's
and it's
deep.
huge now. People get comparanoia. They go online, they compare themselves to more successful artists, and they ask themselves, am I doing enough?
Yeah.
Am I creating enough? And as you start creating for the simple fact to just get likes and attention, you start losing that joy. And so it's that joy, I feel, that really helps you connect to your art, helps you find that flow state, and gets you back to the purpose of why you got into art. So I was going to ask you, these days when you feel yourself getting caught up, do you have like a ritual or something that you do? I know you said meditation.
Mm-hmm. Meditation is definitely one. And it's also, hey, my little pup.
That was a dog. That was me, by the way.
My little pup in my lap.
Yeah.
My emotional support animal. I like hiking. I like going outside. Mm-hmm. I think nature is really healing. I think my dog is really healing, just playing with my dog. And, it's one of my good friends, his name is Da Vinci. He's an amazing coach for music producers. Check him out, studiosensei.com. He has been very helpful in my recent evolution. And one of the pieces of advice that he gave me that helped me out was everything is music. How you answer your emails is music. How you run your errands is your music. Mm-hmm. And that really helped me in recognizing that this is all art.
Yeah.
Like if you have children, like how you talk to them, how you raise them is your art. And then, wow. And so when I started looking at it like that, I didn't let everything else agitate me as much. Mm-hmm. And from that place of handling what I needed to handle in a more relaxed state, it was easier to get into my creative process.
Yeah.
And that's been a really cool tool recently. There's still times where I do get overwhelmed, and I think when I've learned to just take a step back, mm-hmm. when those times happen, it's like, you know what, do something that feels easy. Maybe that's no work. Maybe that is a hike right now.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's something that's chill. Like maybe there is something that's productive and creative that isn't as, difficult to mm-hmm. do. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's just like going on YouTube and watching tutorials or getting inspired.
Yeah.
Or, whatever art that it is that you do, like there's so much inspiration out there.
Yeah.
And I think all that stuff is super valid. And I think in the past I've pushed myself that it has to look a certain way, but actually it can be way more chill. And most often when it is more chill, I am more productive. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of this theme that keeps coming up in my life that it's like, if you want to speed up, slow down.
Wow. That's right.
Yeah.
It's so true. I think that when we try to, schedule so many things in our lives to become successful, even if it's make music in the morning and then set your timer for an hour and a half and then rest for a few minutes and then set the timer again and set this timer again, you almost make it into a job, and then everything gets too cluttered in your life. And when you start just decluttering, being minimal, that's when all the inspiration fun comes in. Mm-hmm. And I almost feel that's what also de-stresses people too, is that if you're able to just be creative and you're just having a bad day, find something creative to do, get your mind off of things, draw something, dance, cook. It just helps so much with stress.
Yeah.
And for you, we were talking about all this movement. What is your definition of success? What is this all going to lead to? Like, what do you feel like is success to you?
Yeah. Success to me is being happy with myself.
Nice.
Success to me is
That's right.
loving myself wherever I may be.
Mm-hmm.
Success to me is joy
Mm-hmm.
and enjoying the process
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that you're always going to want more. Like, no matter what goal I reach,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to want something after that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you never get it done. But knowing that that's the fun part, is that you're always going to want more, and loving yourself throughout that process.
That's right.
And I think knowing that it is a journey, knowing that there's no destination, and enjoying the journey, to me, that's success.
That's beautiful. Well, this has been awesome. I got one last question for you.
Yeah.
It's really, what is your advice for a lot of the creatives out there, or the closet artists out there who want to pursue a creative lifestyle? What would you say to them to make that first step, or some words of inspiration?
Yeah. I think community is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning stages of my development, you were a huge part of that.
Mm-hmm.
You taught me so much. I remember coming to gigs with you. You opened a door for me that wouldn't have been there otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a lot of interning. I interned my ass off. I worked at radio stations, recording studios, record labels. I learned so much from those experiences. And no, I wasn't making music or DJing at any of those gigs.
Mm-hmm.
I was cleaning up and making coffee, and maybe if I was lucky, I would get in the studio. But from there, I met someone else that brought me in the studio all the time.
Yeah.
And then from there, I met someone else that took me to the radio station, and I was in all the meetings. And from there, I'm DJing a private event with Leonardo DiCaprio, and that's how it happens. And it's like, get around people that can teach you.
Yeah.
And even if it's not the exact thing that you're looking to be taught, you will learn, and you will be able to apply it to what you want to do. And I would say internships were a huge part of my growth, and just not waiting around for someone to hand you something.
That's right.
Going out and getting it, and being the leader of your own life, and knowing that wherever you're led, you're going to learn something. It might not be what you thought you're going to learn, but you might learn, industry etiquette instead. Yeah. You might get really embarrassed and say something that you'll never say again. I had those experiences, and it taught me social skills.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of getting into your field too, is knowing how to network and talk to people and communicate and collaborate, and just create. And these days you don't need a label, you don't need a manager, you have the internet, you have all these platforms. You don't need to wait for anything. Just create your art and put it out there and keep going, and don't be so precious about it. And that's something that I'm really working on embodying right now, is not to take forever to create stuff. Just keep it moving, keep it coming out, and it's just going to keep getting better because of that.
I love that. And I think everyone out there who is a creative or wants to be an artist can really benefit from those words, because it's so important to be surrounded by the right community, to go out there in the industry and just learn about it, even if it's for free. Work for free, or be humble and know that you're a beginner. and then just do it. Just do it, bruh.
Just do it, bruh.
Because at the end of the day, if you don't do it, it's all just a dream and all talk. So thank you so much, Shiva.
Thanks, Mitch.
You're the best. I love you.
You're the best. I love you too, man.
And honestly, this has been really cool because I think that we be able to create this thing called Creative Juices, which is a little crew where we mastermind about creativity. And it's such a beautiful group of friends and artists and talented artists that really help and support each other. And I think everyone out there should find that type of group to really facilitate your creative talents. So thanks for listening. This is Creative Haven. My name is Mitchel Dumlao. You can follow Sheaves online. Shiva at?
It is Instagram _ Shiva Music, SHIVA Music, or imdjshiva.com.
Thanks so much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Creative Haven podcast. And if you dig it and like what you heard today, please give us a nice review and rating and share it with one of your friends that you think needs some creative inspiration. You can always find more content and resources at thecreativehaven.com and hit me up on Instagram at Mitchel Dumlao. And if you want to reach out, collab, or ask any questions, you have my permission to slide into my DMs. So keep positive, continue to learn and hone your craft, and create all day. Salamat.